Welcome to the 48th episode of the Interstice podcast. I hope I have that right. Regardless, we're going full steam ahead. And there's a lot to talk about. First, I have to say, Happy New Year. You made it. That is, I think, a more significant thing nowadays. And in light of the state of the world, a true accomplishment. So if you're here with me now, congratulations. You made it. I hope you had a great Christmas. I hope you had a great New Year's. I hope you got to hug the ones you love. And you're really excited, whether that's with resolutions or simply with the potential that lays ahead of you for the following year. I know that I certainly am. And there was this for me, I suppose it'll be a kind of recap episode of what has it been like. I finished 2021. I finished teaching in April. I moved to Kyoto. I spent then 7 months here growing accustomed to everything, making every single mistake that you could possibly imagine in my new position. Very similar, I have to say, to how it was in the year previous when I started the private school teaching. It was, again, me making mistake after mistake after mistake. I'm very much that kind of person who has to get everything wrong the first time to have it then sink into their head what exactly it is that they need to do. I wish I were intelligent enough to avoid those kind of pitfalls, but I'm not. I have bizarre blind spots. Don't we all? But if I were to take an assessment of the year, I would say I would rate it in terms of my personal output, not what I got to experience. Let's start with first that what I got to experience in the last 7 months from moving here to as I sit before you now, as you hear me in your ear, it's been a 10. If it's possible for us to say a 20, then I would say a 20. In terms of what I experienced, it's a 20. In terms of my output, if I'm totally honest, I would say somewhere around a 5. I still pass. There was no deadline that was missed. I did grow creatively, but if I were critical, I would say that it met a kind of bare minimum, and that can never be enough. That's something that I have to move beyond. And I have to say now, though, in a way that I feel relieved, in the past several days, I've really engaged with what it is that I need to improve, and it's coming online, and it makes me really, really excited. And that's a part of my looking to this new year as being something filled with so much potential, because I do believe in momentum. Maybe that's something. Let's jump into that. Let's just talk about momentum as being a very real thing in terms of personal progress. So everything we're moving in a direction. We're moving in a positive direction. We're moving in a negative direction. It is very rarely as we are a process that we can stay dead center. We're usually leaning this way and that way. Now, the problem for us usually is that if we get that, there's an initial inertia. There is an inertia to momentum that makes it feel like there will always be such great difficulty to building momentum, and that momentum won't ever stick around. It's basically walking through molasses the whole time. That's what your experience of progress will be. It's always going to be a slog. It's always going to be just as brutal as the day was before. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. I've done it enough times now. I've picked myself up enough times that I can truly say with full confidence that momentum is something that does have, of course, its inertia. But then once we overcome that inertia, you really start to fly. And this happens so very fast. I would say it took me, I can often as well, because there's many different ways that I feel inertia and I feel momentum. And one of the most obvious is in my physicality. I'm a guy who likes to work out. I want to reach this kind of this temple on the hill, which is to become aesthetic as fuck. And when I start again, as I have in this new year, because it was basically from Christmas, it goes Christmas, then it goes New Year's, and then it's my birthday. And so it's simply madness. getting through that period of time, and you are accumulating, or I am accumulating so much rest in that time while it's all going down. And when I come out the end of it, everything needs to be reset, whether it's how I read, how I write, how I consume, how I work out. They all have rust on them. But starting as a basis, looking at my physical activity, looking at going to the gym, I would say it's 3 days. 3 days of going to the gym. And by the third day, I am no longer burdened by inertia. I am now feeling the benefits of momentum. And truly, I think this could extend to anything that you're going to do. First time, it's a fluke. Second time, it's a mad rush. Third time that you do it, you're starting to establish a habit. And I felt that. And it's also important to note how linked to our moods this inertia of whether we're going in a positive or negative direction is. Because day one, I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to do, but I'm not yet really feeling like I have any sort of mental gain, although perhaps a little. Even though you might have some self-loathing, there is that small space in your head that recognizes you've had a day where you were doing the right thing. Day two, you have you were optimistic, but you feel suspicious of it because you know that just at any moment you could backslide and make all the worst choices in the world all over again. But by day three, you are feeling like maybe I will continue this. Maybe this is more than a fluke. Maybe I will hold steady in this pattern and progress to greater heights. So I say this to encourage myself. I say this to encourage you if you're listening, that if there's anything you're trying, baby steps. Start at 1 day, start at 2 days, make it to 3, and don't think about it so much as a big, huge mountain that you need to climb. Look at it as one step that you need to make in front of you, and that's going to unlock the next and the next and the next, because we do so much better when we look at things in smaller portions than we do the whole. It's simple, it's said a million times, it's kind of a platitude, it's kind of a trope, it's simple, but it's really true, and it's worth remembering. All our useful wisdom in life is wisdom that must be revisited again and again and again. Maybe that's a piece of wisdom, is that everything fades and everything must be renewed, for better or for worse. And to be aware of that cycle, everything is a process, everything is a cycle that's dying and renewing, a seed being born, growing, dying, renewing, that idea. And now that it's picking up, now that I'm really into it, I feel buoyed by it. I feel so much relief in a couple days, because I'd admit freely, I think it's important to admit freely, especially in a position like I am, where there's probably at least 3 people who hear what I have to say, that it's important that I convey an accurate and genuine message to those 3 people. And it is that people get down, I get down, but there was a way out of it, and it's through all the things that you would expect. Get a good night's sleep, eat more vegetables, try and be physically active, find a creative outlet, do this, extend it through 3 days. And by the 3rd day, you're going to think, what the hell's going on? Holy shit. I feel like a totally different person. How can that only be 72 hours ago? But it's true. I see this in myself. I see this in others. It is confirmable. And I've done it so many times now, I can say that that pattern isn't a fluke. It's something that's repeatable. You're going to see it so often. Now, what's cool, because I have started those things up, is that we can jump into any number of topics now that are reflective back on the year, and then we'll move into how I'm feeling the spirit moving forward here, the excitement of the new year. Obviously, the biggest thing that I could have possibly done in the previous year was to come to Kyoto. And then the biggest thing that I was doing here was acclimatizing to my new role at Garden Lab, and also working with Wow to You, because I was hired as their host, and I was going to be doing a number of creative projects. Basically, I was commissioned to do 2 videos a month for them as their new host. And I'm very, very grateful for the experience. Now, what has happened, though? Let's start at the end. I've concluded. This is a bit of a cliffhanger, and it won't necessarily go where you think it's going. I've concluded working with Wow to You. Why did this happen? Well, but have I? I'll add that in. It's because over the course of the year, I really enjoyed what I was doing in terms of reaching new creative heights in terms of pushing myself for some of the videos that we made. Some of them are more exactly as you would expect, but they were a better form of that. And probably it was one that I did in partnership with one of my friends here. His name's Mihao, a drone pilot, X Games kind of guy, brilliant, speaks many languages. We went to this like hidden pizzeria up in a mountaintop, and it was incredible. And also, out around that time, we did a sort of documentary-esque video about this gentleman named Sada, who runs a yoga retreat in Ikoma, Nara, Japan. And both those videos, for being like a documentary-esque or like a food channel kind of thing, I really, really enjoyed. But I don't, to say that they weren't connecting with the audience, I think would be a bit harsh. Whereas the vast majority of the audience had gone over, as you would expect. This didn't surprise me. John Dobbs started Wow to You only in Japan. And then the audience that was watching him, much as they were watching the stuff he was creating, because it was of a high quality, they were going to watch him specifically because they like him. So they go over there when he starts his new channel and they watch him. And I think there was a disconnect with Wow to You's perspective on things where perhaps, I cannot say for certain, but they didn't appreciate how much of the views would go with the host. And so we were not getting, 100,000 views a video. We're getting fractionally that. The channel had 1.4 million subscribers to it, and then we're seeing something like less than 0.5% of that subscribership is watching the videos, something like 16 to 20,000 people on a lower video, maybe 8 to 9. And then we tried different things, and the things that we tried, I really, really enjoyed, and were kind of also what I felt gave me direction at the end. And that was, for a time, they said, why don't we try doing these more cinematic type videos that you do on your own channel occasionally? I said, that's awesome. And we did stuff that I'm so proud of. We did a video of the hike from Hiezan. We did a video of Myoshinji, this beautiful temple complex. We did a video of maybe it's between Hiezan and this one was Arima Onsen. We got this incredibly atmospheric day where we'd gone there and explored while it was raining, kind of like the sunken, the drowned city kind of vibe that you would get from there. And I decided, like you see with basically the videos on my main channel now, a way to differentiate myself is the widescreen format. We really started to use that. And I really felt like the videos that I'd made cinematically are reaching a new level. I learned a lot, and to be able to make those for Wow to You is very, very grateful. They did not have to say that that was okay. They could have said, oh, no cinematic videos. All we're doing is food videos or challenge videos or something like that. So I really appreciated that. And it seemed to be the first time when we did that the audience really turned around. Granted, there was less in terms of brute force views, but where often the comments could be quite negative, now they were filled with passion, excitement, and were really, really emotionally invested in what it was that we were creating there, and it felt great. It felt really, really good to see those type of cinematic videos meeting with people, having an emotional impact, growing in my craft, creating them, and feeling wonderful about the whole thing. But not ever quite reaching what it would need to be for that channel to continue along and be profitable. These are the realities. We must not give way to wishful thinking. They didn't have that there. And when I looked at it, they were then very likely to want to go back to a more traditional format. And I didn't want to do that. Basically, I did not want to continue where I appreciated so much the direction we had already gone, that if we weren't going to continue building the audience in that way, because I feel that's the audience that is honest to what it is that I want to make. Basically, to prevent myself from going insane, I should make things that I love. I think you run into so many, you just watch their channels to know, so many people on YouTube who are lost in what they feel they should make as opposed to what they love to make. And when you do that, you are always at odds with yourself. I perhaps lack the ability to describe just how damaging that must be for someone's mind to pour so much effort into something that you feel so completely at odds with. And it's one thing when it's a job. Think of how destructive that must be to have a job that you don't love. I mean, I think all of us have had that at one point in life because we got to pay bills. That's reality of life. We don't have the luxury to pick and choose. Oh, I want to do this job or that job. It's more that if we want to eat and pay our rent, we are put in a position where we may do something that we're simply doing it for a paycheck. But it's my feeling that when you do that as it relates to an artistic side of yourself, it has a greater toll on you because you're with a job. It's kind of like, I don't even identify with this. When I finish my job and I clock out at 5:00 or whatever it may be, then I go home and I do the things I love, and I do those things honestly. And you might be a gamer, you might be an artist, you might be a singer, but the thing that you engage with, which you identify as actually being you, where a job is just something you do so honestly. But then if you do something creatively where that is reaching into your soul, and you do so in a way that is dishonest to yourself, doesn't surprise me that I would think you'd have some real intense mental issues. So we had decided at Garden Lab that we're going to launch the channel there. We'll also be launching the Garden Lab podcast to talk about the projects that we do there. So podcasts everywhere. Look at all these seeds that are sown. So we'll be starting that, and I'll be sure to let you know when we start that up. And it will have all sorts of interesting people on there. If there's one thing that Garden Lab has, it is fantastic members and people in the community that are going to be great for a really, really interesting conversation. So listen up close. I'll announce that as soon as it drops. And it'll be some really, really fascinating conversations with some very creative people over there. And we are going to be making content exclusively for Garden Lab, which I'm even more excited for. But I don't want to say too much regarding that because I'd like there to actually be something in the hopper, something in the magazine that's loaded up. And when you can go to the channel, you can see stuff and be like, oh, that's what they were going to do there. That's what this is about. And I avoid the hype train. I avoid overhyping something that has not yet come to maturation and is available for your viewing pleasure. But that'll be coming along soon, and that's my job. That is, the buck stops with me. I'm the guy who has got to make sure that channel gets designed and shown the love that it so deserves. But we'll be doing Garden Lab's channel as well. Very, very, very cool. And that's something I'm looking forward to. So lo and behold, now this story has not ended. That we think, oh, what? You're saying you're done with WoW to you? That seems very, very significant. That was a big part of you coming here. We're done in one way, and I say we because I've been working with Garden Lab. We're not going to be, or I will no longer be, the host for WoW to you only in Japan. What we will be doing, though, is still collaborating with them, and that's something that we were always open to doing if we could, how would you say, vet the project beforehand, and if it were something that Studio Garden Lab was interested in doing, then we'll work with them because that would be awesome. It's just the kind of videos that work for the WoW to you only in Japan channel were not the type that we were interested in proceeding with. Now, what's that led to? A really, really, really cool project, something that I'm overjoyed to be working on, and that is working with local prefectures to recover economies, save small towns, tell the stories of places not so well known in Japan. And the place that we'll be going to in January. We got approached with this almost as soon as we said we're going to conclude our contract now and focus on Garden Lab projects. They reached out and said, well, hold on a moment. That's fine. Cool. Understood. We appreciate all the work that you've done here, but we actually have a project with the Japanese government that we would like you to do. And it's in Iwaki in Fukushima. So Iwaki is about 50 kilometers south of where the nuclear reactor had its meltdown however many years ago. And it is one of the places furthest removed from where it occurred, but still suffers from the stigma of having any kind of association with the reactor. Even if they are cleaning it up, they're trying to deal with it as best they can. Even if studies have been done to show that their food is okay and everything is healthy and safe there, they're really, really suffering. And that's just the sort of people I would like to contribute to, because they're getting hit doubly. They got hit by, wow, there was this tsunami that was damaging enough as it was. Then they have the nuclear reactor, and so there's the fear of contamination. And now in the aftermath of that, they have the stigma of being thought of as a dirty prefecture, when this is not the case. They've recovered. They're doing well. They've tested their food. Everything's on the up and up. But now you have the entire economy is smashed there unless people are made aware of the more positive reality that now exists. So our job is to go in and basically tell the story of that region of Iwaki. And it was so much fun. We were already doing our storyboarding. We were looking at the interesting places that we could go to highlight. There's this awesome aquarium. It's called Dekamori, which is basically like you've seen the massive food challenges that they have in Japan, and they've got a whole bunch of those. They got massive cream puffs. They got this like mega parfait. They have, I think it was this donburi bowl that at its largest, at its smallest, it's massive still, but at its largest, it was 16 kilograms of food. They have a cool farm where you can go. It's called like Wonder Farm or something like that, where you could go. And what I'm used to in Japan is strawberry picking, but here they had tomato picking. And in their store, they actually had tomato ice cream, if you can believe that. I would definitely give it a try. I actually, on one of my recent trips to Wakayama down south, part of the tourist experience where I was modeling for the thing was to have this lovely dinner where there was there was like a big tomato, and they'd put inside that tomato this amazing, delicious ice cream. I'm like drooling thinking about it now. So I had at that point become aware that perhaps tomato would go well with ice cream. Regardless, needless to say, it's a really interesting place, and going to somewhere like that, helping the local economy recover from a disaster like the nuclear disaster. How better could I allocate my effort and resources than to try and revitalize a part of Japan that has suffered so much? I love it. That's exactly what I want to do. That's exactly the kind of project that we'd like to work on at Garden Lab. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So very, very, very exciting to be working on that project. And it's totally indicative of the sort of thing that I would like to do in this coming new year. And the fact that we got it in the first month it came along was really, really, really exciting. We were thinking this will occur at a slower rate, and it has not. It has occurred at an incredibly fast rate. So this is really, really, really awesome. That's great. To talk about other plans that are going down right now. So there is a Instagram page that I follow, and it is called 60-Second Documentaries. And it's been a gold mine for finding really, really fascinating people. Just as you'd guessed from the theme, they've got 60 seconds because that's how long you can make a reel for or whatever. And in that 60 seconds, they introduce some fascinating person and try and tell a story about what it is exactly that they do. And one of the people that I saw there was this guy who it's like a chaos artist. So that's a little bit grandiose, but he creates images from broken glass, and specifically what interests him are human faces. I've never seen art like this in my life, anything like it. And he'll put down a piece of glass on the floor, and with a hammer, he will smash it in such a way that the lacerations in the glass will form some of the most beautiful portraiture you've ever seen. And as creative dude at GL, at Garden Lab, it's my duty to reach out to artists to put on events and to put on galleries and to try and get exposure for us as a place that an artist might get a foothold in one of the most beautiful cultural capitals in the world, Kyoto. So we have a good backing to be able to do this. And I've been reaching out to various people. And when I saw this gentleman, his name's Simon Berger or Berger, I'm not sure exactly. He's from Switzerland. Not sure exactly how you would say his name. I reached out to him, and immediately his manager got back to me, and they are interested to come. It is the coolest art. Like if you look him up on Instagram, simon.berger, I want to get some word of mouth out there. He's already doing very well. It sounds like he was blowing up in the last year, doing very, very well. It's gorgeous and totally unexpected. I don't know who thinks when they look at a mirror, I bet I could smash that in such a way that it would make beautiful portraiture. The creative leap that results in what he creates is so damn cool. And then when I reach out to him that his manager is actually interested to be here, I'll actually be writing up a draft to speak to him today about what it is that we can offer: room and board, places to feature his work, a place for him to put on actually an event, could be his creation of the art that he would be doing. But that's so cool. And it's another part of like, I want to make art. I want to feature artists. I want to grow artists. I want to give where I feel like I've gone through my life and people have given me great opportunities. I continue to be given great opportunities by people for no other reason than that they are kind and wish to help. I would like to reflect that back at the world, because it's a really profoundly good thing to take part in. A virtuous cycle, I would say. And so I'm really, really excited to do that. And it's looking very, very positive, even in the preliminary discussions that we have with, I spoke to Simon directly the first time, and he said, oh, I'll send that to my manager. Now I'm speaking to his manager. But that's happening at all is fantastic. It's been so tough to get her here, but there's this cool kind of like serendipitous like relation of another artist that I really appreciate. Her name is Lisa in Japan, and she's agreed to come on the podcast. I probably mentioned her before, but we're going to get her down to Kyoto sometime in the new year. I'm hoping, looking probably like February. Things are like filling up so quickly here. But in February, January, February, perhaps March, we'll see. But get her down here. And we have this awesome, lovely lady. It's actually a married couple. It's Alex and Rachel. I've mentioned, I think, Alex and Rachel in their previous podcast. Rachel has this beautiful magazine that tells stories of Japan, and it's called Storied. And then I noticed that, where I follow Lisa already and spoke to her about coming on the podcast, she is going to be featured in the magazine. And I was like, holy shit, what a great opportunity. I already spoke to her. Now she's collabing with Rachel. Why don't we get her down to Garden Lab, and then she can meet Rachel in person, have an opportunity to shoot in Kyoto. I can hang out with a photographer and an empower photographer who I already have so much respect for. Great stuff. Really cool things happening in this regard. So there's a lot of reaching out to artists right now and projects that are coming down the pipeline, which are creating a massive potential, which I am so excited for. Let's wrap this up for the first 30 minutes of this. I'll get into part 2 and we'll soldier on. We're back again, part 2. We had left off discussing all these interesting opportunities. Lisa in Japan, Simon Berger, the art smasher, portraiture, cool guy, and as well this cool project up in Iwaki. So those are really, really great things that I'm looking to the future to enjoy doing. And recently I could talk a bit more about highlights. What were some of the things that meant so much to me aside from the wow to you thing? in the course of the last year, it would definitely be that I did learn more. That was something when I came here, I thought, if I'm going to have this time, I should be able to grow creatively as an editor. It's just as important that I learn how to be a better videographer. So that's meant, well, let's go in a couple directions then. So one of the things that I learned was pixel sorting, and pixel sorting was the first plugin that I've used in After Effects. It's amazing, and it's opened up this whole world of, I don't know what other plugins I will use, but I understand that they now exist. I understand the insane things that they can do in terms of offering another dimension of production value to what it is that you're creating. It's awesome. And then this one is kind of surprising to say that it's taken me this long to do, but it never struck me, or it never seemed necessary, or perhaps I didn't have enough focus. But so a big thing that you may notice in the videos that I shoot over the years, quality is improved. Totally. Quality is improved. There's no question of that. Absolutely. It's gotten better. But one thing that I've never ever done, I had never ever shot a video fully in manual. Why is that important? Other than to cause you a great headache because you have to adjust the settings for every single time that you hit the record button and account for light. Well, it's annoying because it's consistent, and consistency is what is making it look more professional. So what do I mean by that? That was a lot of words. So basic way to describe this would relate to exposure, and that's just how bright the image is that you're looking at. If you have if your camera is not set in manual, if you have a bright light source on the left of your frame and then there's no light on the right, as you pan over from the light source, you will see a change in luminosity in the image, how bright it is. And for anyone who knows anything about producing videos, this looks really, really amateur, because you don't want to watch a Marvel movie slickly made where suddenly it got brighter or darker because the camera moved and the light sources were different. What happens when you control everything manually will mean that the exposure, the brightness of the image, no matter where the light source is in your frame, it will remain consistent. And so you'll forget a little bit more that things are even being recorded. You will be more immersed in the image itself that you're looking at. And for the first time, there's a gentleman, I did a video not too long ago. His name's Zane Fletcher Johnson. He is a fashion designer, creative out of Osaka. And I went to his fashion show and I recorded it and then put it up on my channel as a sort of promotion for him. And it was tons of fun. And since then, we've done a few things together. And one of the ones that he asked me to do is, I wish I could remember the term for this. It's basically Japanese calligraphy. So we had gotten together and he said, I want to do like a day in the life, me doing my calligraphy. I've gotten this house that I can use, traditional Japanese machiya townhouse, traditional building. And I have a bit of an idea for the story that could be told. It would be like me getting up in the morning, enjoying tea, meditating, and then writing this kanji in calligraphy with a quite large brush. Awesome idea. I like this. I like this a lot. It's the modern slice of life in Japan, seeing what is life like for a foreigner creative who's really integrated here and is at one with the culture. And so I got in there to film with him, and it was the first time I did absolutely everything in manual, and everything is consistent. And we had great light sources, and so it looks pretty good. There was one or two rooms where it would have been nice to have a little bit more, but looks very, very, very good. And also one of the first times, maybe the first time where it's so many elements have been changing that I was filming someone who was black to see how light interacts with their skin. It's really cool. It so captures the light and creates these cool highlights and shadows. Doesn't hurt that Zane's in great shape too, so he's not just a potato. And that he has like the athletic shape that allows for shadows to form more easily and so on. But it's a real step forward for me because I had never done that before. And if you're going to shoot projects that are, well, you could do this on YouTube, but if you're going to shoot for projects that work with a government, work with a company, you better believe the whole time that you're shooting is in manual. If you ever saw a fluctuation in light for a commercial project, they'd wonder why they were ever speaking to you in the first place. It looks hugely amateur. So I would like to extend this to the projects that I do on YouTube as well. But you're a little more, it's kind of the Wild West out there still, and it's just for yourself. And it's almost always purely creative, for me at least, that it's not so much a concern, although I'm going to discipline myself with that. I'm going to make that a part of how I create videos. And that was really, really exciting. That was like, okay, what have you accomplished? You have definitively become a better videographer because you have finished your first project, not yet edited, by the way, but at least filmed, that included using your gear as you would professionally, which is something I've started to do in the last year, and now I'm going to do on a much greater scale in 2022. So that has been absolutely fantastic. And when you can take those steps, when you can learn something, you can bring all the speculation out of your head of like, am I getting better? Well, you're like, I didn't know how to do that before. Now I know how to do that. I am clearly a better creative than I was before. And that feels absolutely fantastic. Can't believe it. It's the most wonderful feeling in the world. So that was a big project for me. It's still in 2021. And now some of the projects still appear on my channel are going to be, they'll be from 2021. I haven't had a chance to edit them, but that's okay. I've a project actually, I'm going to do more videos, which I think people will enjoy, where I miss them, where it was discussional. And I'm going to be doing more discussional videos as much as I'll do my creative videos as well, because both are good and I enjoy doing both. And as I said before earlier in this podcast, you should, as much as you possibly can, do what you love. That'll keep you sane. So looking forward to more of that in the future. What else have I been doing? Well, let me enlist you. Come with me into the new cult. I say that jokingly, that I'm into now. So I talked about Alex last time I was here. Last time I did the podcast. Alex is this mountain of a man, the Ginger Thor, as we call him. And Alex is somebody who lives such an admirable life. He's an incredible cook. He's the head distiller for this craft house gin distillery here in Kyoto. That's like a beautiful distillery, Kinobi Gin, delicious gin. Oh, it's very good. Very, very well educated, thoughtful, so into longevity. Like we discovered, I was like, oh, you're into it too? So am I. Like we're both into this kind of thing. And where is this going to go? He goes to the gym. Like I said, he's Ginger Thor. And one of the things that he's been using, he does all of his, as you would expect, he does his resistance training, and I do resistance training. But something that he includes so that he just never stops going to the gym, if he can, and he does fairly consistently, he goes 7 days a week without overtraining. That's key when I say this. He uses an app, which is basically Thor's app. It's Center, spelled CENTR, Center. And it's Chris Hemsworth's app. Cost about $130 US for a year to use the whole app. And it's amazing because it includes workout routines from, I would say, 8 different coaches. They're all guided. They're all broken down into some of them are plyometrics, which is explosive movements. Some of them are HIIT, which is high intensity interval, which plyo kind of is. It already is high intensity interval, but it's a specific type of HIIT or high intensity interval training. But they're so good if what you're looking to do is to lean out while building at the same time your connective tissues strength, little bit of muscle mass. You still need the resistance training. You got to lift heavy and do all that stuff to get your mass up a bit. But this is really what carves you out into the Greek god that you would likely desire to be. And since going to the gym with him, it's been incredible. Like I started doing it before Christmas. Of course, then Christmas was this mad slaughterhouse of pizza. I think I had 5 charges on my credit card in a row for pizza. Ugh. I'm kind of amazed, actually, that I came out the other end of that less chubby. I honestly thought I would have put on like 8 kilograms or something, but I managed not to. And this center, this is another thing where I'm trying to give people who listen to this like something more useful than just a little entertainment. I hope you are enjoying me being in your ear and this is some welcome distraction to your day. But if there's something that you then took into your life that you applied to your own, that would be good. That would be awesome as well. If I could encourage anyone to try out this app and to try out the workout routines within it, I would have done something good in this life. It has a 7-day free trial. I am definitely not sponsored by Center at all. I would not be a good poster child for them. Not yet. I'll get there. I'll continue to depudge. But it's remarkable. Also, a big benefit of this is that it is all body weight. It does include within it programs if you want to do weights, but what I've been focusing on is the body weight stuff. And for that, you needn't even have a gym membership. You could do it in your house in just a room that you had big enough to lay down like a 2-meter squared yoga mat or something like that. And you could get into it. The workouts are usually around 30 minutes or so. You would do like 30 seconds on, 20-second break, 30 seconds on, 10-second break, something like that, depending on the intensity of the exercise. They've got beginner, intermediate, advanced, and it's awesome. And I've been getting up, even in this cold weather. That feels really good. I've been getting to sleep at a good time recently here after all the festivities have finished. Get up at about 6:30, get to the gym at about 7, and then crank out one of these workouts in about a half an hour and do a little resistance training afterwards. I'm ready to do more resistance training now that my conditioning has come back as a result of doing these, but they're so good. It's really revolutionized how I would approach my working out, because what they can do is that no matter what state of disrepair your body is in, and mine will often be in quite a state of disrepair because of the resistance training I'm doing, you could always do one of these. And again, it's a virtuous feedback cycle that you have going on, where when you work out, what it is that heals you is sleep, nutrition, but then in there is blood flow. And when you do these center workouts, you are getting such an incredible blood flow and flushing of your system that you better believe while you're still toning up, you are recovering faster because you do these center workouts. And then your conditioning is increased. So basically your gas tank is increased by doing these workouts. So then your resistance training is made that much more effective because of the center. So the center helps the recovery, the kintore, the resistance training, then helps your center because you got stronger muscles, so you're going to be able to do more powerful motions. It's cyclically brilliant for each other. And final note, this is something that's really, really important. So I am a guy, I like running. I have got, hiding behind me here, I've done 2 marathons, one of which I actually managed to finish. I got to 36 kilometers on the second and could move no longer. But the first one I finished. And much as I love running, as I say, I'm a guy who loves running. The problem with running is really the impact. You can have better shoes, which can change just how good or bad that is. You can have a different kind of track that you're running on that can improve that. But in the end, you're still running for hours and hours and endless hours and impacting your knees very, very hard as you do it. The center workouts, you're doing squat jumps, but nothing even remotely close to the amount of impact that you put on your joints when you go for even a 5K run. So you're getting maximum return on investment. You're biomechanically doing something that's not going to have such an upkeep toll on your body. You're getting all the benefits with none of the drawbacks. And I would say like even more benefits than some of these other forms of cardio that you have. So it's really, really good. And it's on my Instagram. I've like put hashtag cult of center when I'm in doing these things with my friends in the morning. It's a lot of fun. Something else that we've been doing, new experiences, talking about new things. This is now jumping back into 2021, but makes me excited going forward because I'm getting better. I'm getting experience with it. One of the things that creates, which we do for business at Garden Lab, is that we host these artists. And I'd mentioned that we were planning on getting Simon in, the glass sculpture, Lisa in Japan. That was another thing that we were going to do. But we also do live music events, and I had heard from a friend that there was this very talented musician whose name is Sylvester, who is this incredible pianist, and he has a couple albums out. One of them is called Enigma, and he does crazy stuff. He does like chiptune, which is basically he's programmed the SNES, the Famicom, like the old Nintendo I grew up with, and his Game Boy, that he can play music through them using the MIDI systems that they have. But he is an exquisite pianist. And it was my job, or I sort of made it my job, that I reached out to him and said, we want to get you in for a live performance. We'd love to have you. Can we get this done? And he said that he was down, and start to finish, I organized it with him, and we did all sorts of cool stuff. We made some reels to promote him on Instagram. We did a photo shoot, so we were able to feature him as a guest artist on our Instagram page for Garden Lab. Excuse me. We when we got the room together, we were like, how can we make this like a more immersive evening? And then we got this idea for lighting, where he said, what do you want to do for lighting? I said, I'll talk to my people. And I spoke to Drew. I spoke to Alessandro, Sandro for short. And it was Drew who suggested that we do it with candles. So we got a bunch of candles. And then it was my idea, because if you go over to Sylvester's house, it is really cool. It's very dreamlike. It's very positive. It's an explosion of primary colors. That's how I describe it. When you walk in the door, he has all of these plushies because he loves, far as I can see, anything that's Nintendo. And I actually know it's very specifically Nintendo, isn't? Because, and I was going to say Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure Pokemon is Nintendo. Somebody's going. No, it is. It's for sure. I don't think it's a subsidiary. Anyways, so we brought over a huge amount of his plushies. So we just filled up Garden Lab with like Blastoid and Pikachu, and those are, I don't know that many names of Pokemon, but we had the place filled up with all of these Pokemon, and it was a really wonderful evening of music. He had two performances. We was doing them for 30 minutes at a time, one of which was dedicated to more his classical style music. And then the other was given over to, and it was cool because it was later in the night and there was higher energy. It was given over to his Famicom and sort of like the fun MIDI EDM. I don't know if I could say electronic dance music, but like you could dance to it, and it was really cool. We had a wonderful night. And it was, for me, the first time that I'd invited an artist, orchestrated and organized the whole thing, and had it be a success, which it was. Not massive. There were not a ton of people there, but there were enough people there. And that's what we have to go for, is we build. We can't expect that every night's going to be hundreds of people, nor could we actually handle that many people coming into Garden Lab. It's just not that big in the bar, but the bar is big enough to have like 20, 30 people in there. And it was a blast. And I could tell everybody was having a great time. The atmosphere was incredible with the candlelit style that we'd done it in, with the little plushies decorated around the room. It was fantastic, and it showed me that I could do it, and it made me excited to work with more performing artists, musical performing artists in 2022. So that was an incredible experience as of late. looking now onwards in the following weeks, it's basically going to be, I need to build out the they call it the skeleton of the Garden Lab YouTube channel. Going to do that. Work on a little bit more for this Iwaki project. I have to build essentially a filming schedule for the different places that we'll go to get coverage while we're there. I've got a hold. One of the things I suggest this to you as well is that through each day, I now have this book that I used to write out my list of things to do, and I'm back on it again, and it's totally changed my life all over again, where it keeps you so aware, where keeping a list in your head of all the things that you have to do in the course of a day is such a pain to remember them all. Just write them out, and then you offload that into this little book that you have, and all is clara, all is clear. And you can proceed and take some of the weight off of your imagination to have to recall all of this at once. So that has been absolutely awesome. I'll be doing much more work in terms of blog posts on my website. And if I can speak to Caden, the graphic designer that I was working with before, we're going to, I think we'll do some more actual shirt designs as well. So we're actually going to have merchandise I should aim for before the end of February up available on that site. So if people are looking to support me in that way, they can. And they can actually get some cool merchandise out of it, because I'll be working not with pre-made templates, but with, whatchamacallit, with Caden, who is an incredible graphic designer, to make some really, really special stuff. As I say this, I actually realize I need to add to this list, reach out to Caden. That would be cool. I'm going to put that at the bottom right here. Reach out to Caden. Rot. So that'll be really, really cool. That's something that we have coming along. I'm also excited for, I'm going to revisit this. I hadn't, but my eldest brother is an incredible artist, does all kinds. Like he does everything. He really has an artist's mind, although he's a salesman for Mercedes, and he's been the top salesman in Western Canada for the last 7 years or so. But he's an artist, it turns out, at the same time. And so I was thinking it would be very cool if we could have him design the imagery that would be the banner for Garden Lab. If we could take his work, digitize it, and then make that the banner, it would be the coolest thing in the world. Because much as he, Robert Bateman, perhaps is his name, it's this guy who does hyper-realistic wildlife from the west coast of Canada. And Eric used to emulate him as a form of practice when he was younger. But then as Eric got older, he was so confident in the realm of realism that he started to branch out into more, I don't know what exactly describes impressionist or surrealist, but if I had to wager a guess, the sort of stuff that he did as he got older became that. And it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. He's got like a couple of them up around his house when I've gone back, and I love them, and I love him. He's a great brother, and we'll hopefully have him working on some projects. Other things that are going on, well, I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but my other brother, middle brother, is very much an entrepreneur, big time entrepreneur. All his life, like when I was a kid, he was always organizing raves. He was starting business after business after business, and really prescient guy, has always seen things coming. Very, very, very smart. And when I was in Japan a couple of years ago now, he'd said to me, Dave, I think I got a great business opportunity. He's always been an incredible chef, and he pitched to me that we would start a food truck back in Canada, or me basically is like a silent partner where I can't be there, but I could at least help invest in it. And it's been going well. It's called the Little Corner Sandwich Shop. You can look it up on Instagram, or we got our website. We got Facebook, Instagram, website, kind of that triumvirate going on. It's been doing really well, and it's like comfort food for comfort prices. It's soups and sandwiches, and I had no idea. I'm making myself hungry. I'm definitely going to eat as soon as I finish this. It's awesome how well it's done, and now we've opened a second location. And I know that it's tough for businesses. I'm working at one right now. It's tough for us, and it's tough for him, but It's done very, very well. So in the new year, hopefully, I'll have some awesome updates for that, which should be exciting. We have 2 locations. Oh, we did well enough to open 2 locations. Perhaps in this 2022, the economy will pick up more, and we'll be able to open perhaps even a 3rd. We've even floated the idea that this is franchisable. That somewhere down the line, maybe we could even open a place like this here in Japan, which would be really, really, really cool, because I know the food would kill here. It would kill anywhere. It's so good. It's you just go take a gander at the Little Corner Sandwich Shop Instagram, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The soups, the sandwiches, the burgers that they do. I'm killing myself here. I really got to stop talking about this, but I did want to share that other entrepreneurial effort that's going on in my life, and that it's had some success, and that makes me really happy. If only as a bridge between myself and my brother. I'm going to give him a call tomorrow. We're going to catch up, speak about how the business has been doing, because it's been tough. COVID is a tough time to run a business in. So we're going to catch up, chat about that, talk about basically for me to hear his plans for the future, because all I can say is I trust you. So far, you've done so well. But I do like to be involved in the process, because albeit a silent partner, I am still a partner there. So that's very, very exciting. And as well, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, what I used to base this podcast on was that I would read. And I would share kind of a reflection on whatever book it was that I was reading at the time. And if only for myself, it was good to talk about, because it solidified what was in my head from what I read. Started reading again. Yes, such a good feeling. And it is a book that was gifted to me, which is by Murakami, which is everybody's favorite Japanese author. And this is called Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. And it's kind of cool. I feel it is somewhat faded, because when I was in high school, my good friend who was getting married this spring in Scotland, we're going to go visit him there for that. He was reading it in high school, and I remember him describing the first scene to me. And now all these people I've met have said he's so amazing. You got to check him out. And then Sandro, my fellow videographer here, he gifted it to me for Christmas. So I've been getting into that. It's a little bit more surreal for my taste than I actually enjoy, but I would never judge a book until I had completed it and then thought about it more. So it's just good to be reading again. And then finally, as I wrap up here in the final minute, I've been journaling again as of yesterday, and I'll journal again tonight, to organize your thoughts, to get out of your head, to reflect on what you thought was like you entirely, but more just like an emotional reaction to something in a day. Journaling is the most amazing thing in the world. Marcus Aurelius did it daily, and I hear he did a pretty good job of governing Rome for the time that he was alive. And I'm back into it, and I love it. And it's another piece of what has made me so much more optimistic and positive going forward here into 2022. Thank you so much for listening. This was great. I felt a good energy today, minus stimulants. I think I actually have more energy when I don't drink coffee, if you can believe that. Or I've built up such a tolerance to it recently that I got to take a break, which is what I'm doing now. But thank you again. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to check out my blog posts where I do my writing, that's on davetrippinjapan.com. This is available on Spotify, Google, on my Interstice YouTube channel if you're not sure exactly where you can find it, or if you don't want to find it in this place but the other. If you support me on Patreon, that means the world to me. Thank you so much for doing that. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.